Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. Some media sites have been reporting a production start date for Kathleen Kennedy's new Star Wars movie that's supposed to feature Daisy Ridley playing Rey Palpatine once again. This was one of 3 new alleged movies that Kathleen Kennedy announced way back in April at the European Star Wars Celebration, as I had talked about in a video that I had released back on April 8th. Video of the audience reaction of the new Rey movie at that convention was clearly mixed, and this was from people who I would very much think were primarily hardcore Star Wars fans, because I seriously doubt that casual fans would have made the effort to attend a Star Wars-specific convention. Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars sequel trilogy became incredibly divisive thanks to Ruan Johnson's movie Star Wars VIII: The Last Jedi, and Jar Jar Abrams' dumpster fire of a movie, Star Wars IX: The Rise of Palpatine. And since I first watched that dumpster fire of a movie, The Rise of Palpatine, nearly 4 years ago, not long after it had premiered, the moment that its closing credits began to roll on the screen and the lights began to come up inside of the theater where a friend of mine and I had watched it, I told my friend then and there that I would never again watch that movie because it was complete garbage. And I have kept that personal vow, which then subsequently grew to include my decision to never watch The Last Jedi or Star Wars VII: The Force Awakens ever again either, because those movies lead into that dumpster fire of a movie, The Rise of Palpatine. And I am very likely not the only person who made that decision, because with each successive sequel trilogy movie, both the box office revenue and the size of the audience watching them shrunk over time. As president of Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, in her obsessive determination to push her radical feminist ideology, co-opted the Star Wars franchise, just as other woke activists have done to numerous other franchises, because she was far more interested in retconning and destroying George Lucas's work in Star Wars, because to her, it represented and promoted the patriarchy. And one of the beliefs that the radical feminist and woke identity politics ideologies have in common is their mutual desire to destroy the patriarchy. Because in their minds, it is a purely evil source of oppression that has to be utterly removed and erased from existence in all of its forms, including purely fictional ones such as in Star Wars. Other franchises that have received the same anti-patriarchal treatment from woke activists include, but are not limited to, the BBC's totally retconned Doctor Who franchise that fans are rapidly abandoning, Paramount's Star Trek franchise, Amazon Prime's abomination and complete bastardization of J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth with its The Lord of the Rings of Power series, the Witcher series on Netflix that Henry Cavill just quit because of the show's writers abandoning the original author's intent with their own anti-patriarchal changes, Kathleen Kennedy's failed Willow series on Disney Plus that was so bad that Bob Iger had it removed from the streaming platform so that he could use it as a tax write-off, as well as Kathleen Kennedy's most recent box office failure, Indiana Jones and the Dildo of Destruction. And no, I did not forget about the MCU and the massive changes that began with its Phase 4 that more popularly became known as the MCU because of its growing emphasis on anti-patriarchal, pro-feminist narratives that transformed a once incredibly profitable franchise for Disney into an increasingly costly failure, as epitomized by its most recent offering, The Marvels, which is the biggest flop in the entire history of the MCU and its 33 movies. Kathleen Kennedy's third sequel trilogy movie was so abhorrently bad in multiple ways, and such a massive insult to the entire Star Wars fandom, thanks to it retconning the victories of Luke Skywalker and his father Anakin, aka Darth Vader, over Emperor Palpatine in George Lucas's 1983 movie, Star Wars VI: Return of the Jedi, that I can simply never bring myself to ever watch that garbage movie ever again. And in the 4 years since, I haven't, not once, even though it now regularly appears on cable TV along with The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. It's also the only Star Wars movie that I have never purchased on Blu-ray. When I released my first 10 Unwatchable Films video way back in April of 2022, I included all 3 of the sequel trilogy movies as a set of unwatchable films because all of them together as a group are ultimately unwatchable. So when Kathleen Kennedy announced that a new Rey Palpatine movie was going to be produced, my first reaction was this: I have no desire or intention of ever watching it if and when it does get released in theaters. I simply will not waste my personal time watching it, but I will share news about it as I am doing now. From a MovieWeb article shared on December 3rd entitled New Star Wars Movie Production Start Date in Doubt as Daisy Ridley Shares Excitement for Rey Palpatine's Return. Actress Daisy Ridley admits her Star Wars film wasn't what she expected, but she is still very excited about the project. Rey Palpatine will return! Oh, goody goody gumdrops! The last time fans saw Daisy Ridley's Force-using hero was at the conclusion of Jar Jar Abrams' dumpster fire of a movie, Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Palpatine. And it was there on Tatooine that Rey buried the iconic lightsabers that had been used by Luke Skywalker, as played by Mark Hamill, and Leia Organa, as played by the late Carrie Fisher. Lucasfilm announced back in April at the European Star Wars Convention that 3 new Star Wars films are on the way. Well, let's just say assumedly on the way, provided that they don't get canceled like so many other Star Wars projects have been under Kathleen Kennedy's reign of terror over Lucasfilm. And one of them will feature the return of Rey Palpatine. Right. And it looks like a production start date for the movie is much closer than anyone may have anticipated. While upcoming Star Wars movies by Taika Waititi and Dave Filoni seem to be only in the early stages of scripting, according to Production List, the Film and Television Industry Alliance's production tracking service, the new sequel to Star Wars will begin shooting on April 7th, 2024 in London in the United Kingdom. However, these things are open to change, and this is no exception. As news spread of the production start listing, Star Wars Newsnet shared a claim that according to their sources, the script is not ready and filming is more likely to begin in the summer at the earliest. Now, if we take a look at the actual Production List website page that everyone has been citing, there are some glaring inconsistencies on the page itself, because if we scroll down towards the bottom, the page itself lists Justin Britt-Gibson and Damon Lindelof as the writers for the movie. And that's just completely incorrect, because as I had said in a video that I had released back in March, Kathleen Kennedy had fired Justin Britt-Gibson and Damon Lindelof from the movie only weeks before she had announced the 3 new Star Wars movies at the European Star Wars Celebration Convention in April. Ironically, she had fired them only 6 months after she had announced that they were writing a new Star Wars movie, which was not long after then CEO Bob Chapek had told Kathleen Kennedy to shut up about new Star Wars projects, as I had talked about in 2 back-to-back videos that I had released in October of 2022. Ridley is very excited about the movie, which she talked about in an interview that she gave to Collider back in November. So let's take a look at that article, which was released on November 21st. In an interview with Collider's Steve Weintraub, Daisy Ridley said of the new Star Wars movie, quote, "I will tell you, Steve, when I saw you in Park City, I had not been approached. I was asked not by you, but I was asked something when I was there, and strangely, people were asking me stuff, and I was like, no, I'm not doing another one. Then it all happened after I came back. It was such a nice reception. I was shitting myself before I went on stage because no one knew I was going to that. No one knew I was going to Celebration, bar like Kathleen Kennedy, and there were a couple of people. I was so nervous. Oh my God, it was such a wonderful reception. I'm very excited. The story is really cool. I'm waiting to read a script because obviously I don't have any other updates. It's not what I expected, but I'm very excited." Unquote. So Daisy Ridley had admittedly not yet read the script for the movie, but said that the story was really cool and that she's very excited about it. I can only assume that Kathleen Kennedy gave her a synopsis of her newest upcoming box office disaster. Provided that the movie does get produced, and I am inclined to believe that of the 3 movies that Kennedy announced at the European Star Wars Celebration in April, that the Rey Palpatine movie will be the one that does because that character is Kennedy's self-insert Mary Sue. She'd never abandon another opportunity to push her radical feminist beliefs via her Mary Sue Rey Palpatine character, even if most audiences have no interest in seeing the character again. But as far as I'm concerned, just as the sequel trilogy deservedly suffered diminishing returns throughout its run, this newest Rey movie, coming off the heels of Jar Jar Abrams' dumpster fire of a movie, The Rise of Palpatine, that strongly suggests that it will do even worse and probably end up with a final global gross box office sitting somewhere between what The Rise of Palpatine earned and Solo: A Star Wars Story, which was the first Star Wars movie to ever flop and lose money at the box office. In other words, the new Rey Palpatine movie could also flop at the box office, and I will in no way be surprised if that's what ultimately happens. But either way, I will not subject myself to another Rey movie. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.